But you see, atheists, you believe
that phrase should just be banned. No theist should ever be allowed to assert what an atheist thinks.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Eric from THiNKeasy, back with another video review, and today we're going to be reviewing a video by The Atheist Voice. Now, I used to watch this guy's videos a few years back. I haven't in a while, mostly because his face just gets to me. I'm not saying anything about the arguments just yet, but there's just something about his face that... Anyway.
If it has nothing to do with their arguments, why bring it up at all? This is a clear poisoning of the well, i.e. you're introducing the subject of your video in such a way that the audience views them negatively from the very start, which is intended to make you appear in a positive light by comparison. The only problem for you is that your own inability in going after such a shallow quality is more likely than not to backfire, as it clearly has with me. I view this and I simply see, I'm a shallow arsehole. That's all I see written across your forehead. So this is perhaps not the start you had intended.
We're going to be responding to a video that, at the time that this video was shot, it's his channel's like a trailer that pops up at the beginning and autoplays. It's called 15 Things Never to Say to an Atheist. And I will say that because this is an 11-minute video, I may take some creative editing to kind of shorten the time. Otherwise, we're going to be here for 20 minutes. And so I'm telling you that up front. I'm not going to try to deceive in any way. I'm not going to leave out important information, but I do want to kind of cut the fat.
So a question comes up, what are things Christians should not say to atheists? First one, where do you get your morality from? Don't assume that because we're atheists, we don't have morals. We all have morals, we all have ethics. Ours don't derive from a holy book. And I would hope that your Bible isn't the only reason you're not out there killing everybody in sight. Do you not believe...
Okay, so let me stop it there. I'm not sure what was meant when this was said to you, but if I were to say this to you, I would say it in the sense you don't have an objective standard for morality. And so the question is, where are you getting your morals from, if not an objective moral standard? Christians have the Bible.
So what? I have a written list of human rights. Is it being written down that gives it the power? You are showing the exact flaw in the original argument that is being highlighted. You presuppose that you have some superior morality on the account of being a Christian. You don't. The Bible is a human-sourced book, first and foremost. So you need to show how the human-sourced Bible is superior to the human-sourced list of human rights. That's the first thing you need to do in defending your usage of objective. As for your as of yet unsubstantiated claim that there is also a God behind the Bible, that God existing or not doesn't suddenly raise your morality above that of an atheist any more than, say, Hitler existing raised the morality of the Nazis above an atheist. The existence of character X is a non sequitur. You simply have a dictator model of ethics, i.e. you adhere to the rules of the Bible's authors and perhaps the as of yet unproven deity they represent. Yet, if that God exists, then either the commandments are moral because there's some external force which dictates said God's commandments, making said God completely unnecessary for morality under Occam's razor, or moral right and wrong are simply based on said God's subjective whims. So either God is not necessary for objective morality, or your, quote, objective morality is as subjective as the morality of Adolf Hitler, thus demonstrating the deep flaws in what you have just asserted. I just avoid the terms objective and subjective as they have little to no actual use. Just stick to human-sourced versus apparently God-sourced. Much clearer, much more accurate, doesn't try to raise you on the basis of semantics because objective is simply associated with just and fair.
But you see, atheists, you believe...
Atheists don't believe anything on the grounds that they are atheist. They simply don't believe in your God, along with the thousands of other gods that you don't believe in either. If you start your sentence with some variation of atheists believe, I can guarantee you that you're wrong. There will be atheists who do not believe what you're about to state.
That we're a cosmic accident, that the Big Bang just happened and everything is here and we evolved over generations and billions and millions of years of minute natural selection evolution.
You see, what would have been an accurate start to that sentence would have been what the scientifically literate among us acknowledge, in spite of my attempts to misconstrue. That would have been much better.
And if that's the case, then morality is an illusion.
And yet you still need to actually demonstrate how it wouldn't be an illusion if a god or gods existed. Your argument so far has been, you lack my arbitrarily selected dictator as the source for moral decisions. Therefore, you lack objective morality. The problem is, why does it have to be a god? Why couldn't I pronounce myself that arbitrary dictator, or aliens, or what about a moral unicorn? If you deny all of these, in the end, all you are doing is defining objective morality as deity-sourced, which, again, how is that superior to being human-sourced? Demonstration required.
I know you sometimes argue that it came about through evolutionary necessity, but even then that does not necessitate an objective moral law. That's all I'm saying. You have no basis for morality, and so although you may be moral, and we recognize that, the atheists, a lot of atheists I've met have been pretty moral, but still, they're living contrary to their worldview. Christians are living in line with their worldview. Atheists borrow from our worldview to make theirs work somehow. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
On the contrary, if you disagree with either genocide, conquest rape, or slavery, then it is you who is clearly sourcing their morality from somewhere other than the Bible, since each of these things is clearly ordained as divinely just in said book. Now, I'm not going to arrogantly assert that you're stealing your morality from atheism, or even a secular philosophy such as humanism, which I subscribe to, since I don't resort to reductionism. Christians and atheists are not the only two demographics that exist in the world. Atheists, just like theists, are subdivided. As noted earlier, I am a secular humanist, for example. But hell, maybe both you and I are stealing from Hindu morality. I doubt it, since I have no qualms killing cattle in Minecraft. But the general point I'm trying to make is that it is demonstrable that neither you nor I source our morality from the Bible and any associated God that may or may not exist, because if we did, we'd both be in prison. Or in the White House. America's kind of blurred those lines, and yeah, it kind of makes us a bit messy. But you seem to be operating off this idea that if you can attack and I guess disprove the current dominant understanding of secular morality, that this would mean Christianity is true, when really no. Here's food for thought. Maybe we just don't understand the complexities of morality all that well as a species. I mean, likewise, you likely don't know every intricacy about your computer at home. Does that ignorance on your part of the naturalistic processes behind said device mean I get to come along and assert that the computer fairies must exist to allow said computer to work. At most, you're simply arguing from ignorance. It's a moral God of the gaps, which requires you to demonstrate how God allows for and is necessary for any kind of morality before it's any sort of an argument at all. Until you do that, it's just hot air.
Believe in anything, your life must be so empty. It's like, no, I don't believe in God. I believe in plenty of other things, and there's a lot of other things that give my life meaning. Whether it's friends, family, teaching, the kids I work with on a regular basis, talking about atheism and writing about it, which means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to the people watching this or reading the website too. But all the atheists I know have plenty in their life that gives them meaning. Why are you mad?
Yeah, I really wouldn't have anything to say to that. Yeah, Christians, we shouldn't say that. By the common grace of God, God does make the rain fall on the righteous and the unrighteous, and atheists have pretty fulfilling lives for the most part. It'll end, and then it won't be very fulfilling, but for the most part, I mean, I don't have any really objections to that.
Well, I have an objection here in that I wish you demonstrate your assertion that God causes anything to happen at all. It should be easy using the scientific method, since if God has an influence on our universe, they are by definition measurable by science. Yet, so far, you, Christianity, and the whole of theism has had no luck in doing just that. I love also the threat that there's going to be hell at the end of the road. Here's a fun fact. As an atheist, I don't use the threat of physical violence to try and get people to think like me. At most, I okay it for self-defense, consensual sports, and consensual sex, but that's about it. No need to tell you that my boss is going to come to your house and break your legs if you don't pick up a science book and actually learn something.
God. Because apparently if I don't believe in God, I must have this deep hatred and I wake up every morning and I curse the sky. Atheists don't hate God. Atheists don't believe in God. We also don't hate unicorns. You can't...
Yeah, Richard Dawkins is the prime example of this one. Anybody I know that's mad at God, it's him.
Then you very clearly don't know anyone who's mad at God. Period. What Richard Dawkins is angry at, however, is the way your ethically and intellectually bankrupt belief system has invaded not just our day-to-day life, denying rights for numerous demographics because it might upset the great juju under the mountain. No, it's also hindered scientific endeavours throughout history, something it continues to do today, which slows progress for all humanity. He's a scientist. He's angry at your religion and its followers, not some unproven deity.
One of the very first books I read as a new Christian was The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, and all throughout I found just a hatred of God and anything religion, and it was just like disgusting to me. But it was helpful. It put me in the mindset of an atheist, skeptical person. Y'all do have arguments that seem convincing and will convince the naive, but ultimately there are answers to all those objections, and so that's besides the point.
No, that's a very core point. The fact that you and every other theist in the history of humankind have failed to supply evidence for the existence of God is both the long and short of it. As for the God delusion helping you get into the mindset of an atheist, from your displayed ignorance here, that's clearly false. But hey, if you wanted to prove Richard Dawkins hated God, you could always quote a chapter and page where he says just that. Otherwise, you're just dishonestly changing hatred for your religion, which has violated ethics and science, for hatred of your unproven deity.
But all this to say is that some atheists are definitely mad at God, and we see it.
And that's all we get from that segment. Does he actually address his burden of proof in showing how there are atheists who hate God? No, he merely asserts Richard Dawkins does without further evidence to demonstrate how he came to that conclusion. I'm still waiting for a demonstration beyond your raw assertion. We call it supplying evidence.
Prove God doesn't exist. That's always a fun one. Like, yeah, well, when you can prove to me that flying unicorns don't exist, we'll play the game. I always want to know why Christians have no problem disbelieving in, Hindu gods, other religions' gods, and they just dismiss it. They never think about it. It's not like they're sitting around thinking, maybe Zeus does exist. No, they're just like, of course Zeus doesn't exist. It's silly for anybody to think that, or had thought about that in the past. And then when I do the same thing, like, yeah, well, I dismiss your God the same way, they're like, but you can't prove that. Look, you go through the other millions of gods and you disprove them, then I'll get around to yours, all right? We'll call that a deal. Next.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I would never tell an atheist you can't disprove God, because we don't need you to disprove God, because God exists whether you believe it or not, and the evidence is all around us, and I'm sorry, but that's just not something I really have to say. But on the whole, Christians that do say that, stop saying that.
In claiming that there's evidence for God all around, this tells us that either A, you are a simple liar, or B, you lack the most simple abilities in being able to supply said evidence. Why aren't you supplying said evidence for God? Why are you relying on the same hollow platitudes which crumble under the most basic scrutiny? These are questions that need actual answers.
Next one. What if you're wrong? What if I'm wrong? Nothing's gonna happen if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then basically what you're assuming is that God is gonna punish me for asking honest questions and trying to, search this stuff for myself and ending up at the conclusion that he didn't like. Why would God be mad at me for actually doing some research instead of just sitting around and going to church a couple times a week and acting like I really care? And what if we're wrong? Nothing's gonna happen. What if you're wrong? What if you've been praying to a wrong God this whole time? I think Homer Simpson said something like, what if you're praying to the wrong God and you're making the real one madder and madder every time you do it?
Okay, that's kind of funny, actually. But I probably wouldn't have a whole lot of objections to that either. The Pascal's wager thing, if you're wrong, then you have everything to lose. If we're wrong, we have nothing to lose. Yeah, I get that. I mean, we can't force belief on you, and nobody... Let me take a step back. Christians that are biblically literate and who are in the Bible daily and who pray daily, those who are pretty serious would not want you to pretend like you're believing. That's just not... That's not a good, that's deceitful on both ends. So yes, I agree with you, but all this to say, I probably wouldn't have anything to say to that either.
Fake it till you make it is a very popular stance throughout Christianity, and your little no true Scotsman there, not going to work. For a start, the argument's originator, Blaise Pascal, was a biblical theologian. So to say that no biblically literate Christian would say X misses the mark entirely.
You just have to have faith. God's given me this mind to use, but you're asking me to close it when it comes to religion. Like, no, I don't have...
But basically, I do object to your reason for disregarding that question. You're not just asking honest questions. The evidence is there, and you're rejecting it. You are rejecting the evidence that God provided to you. You're rejecting His revelation in His Word. You're rejecting all of that. That is very plain, and you're suppressing the truth. And so, for that, you're not excused. I'm sorry, but you can't just go out there and say that you're asking honest questions, because there are answers.
Are you going to supply any such evidence? No? Well, that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed as such. Hitchens razor. All you are doing is asserting you have evidence. that's not an actual argument, and simply repeating it doesn't make it true. When I say that the Bible undoubtedly supports genocide, conquest, rape, and slavery, I supply my evidence without hesitation because I actually have a researched case. Since you don't supply evidence, what does that tell us about this so-called evidence you claim you have, yet refuse to share?
Have to have faith. I have to understand what I'm thinking. You ought to be able to think critically. That's not a bad thing. And usually they say you just have to have faith when I've stumped them. When atheists have given them something that they can't answer, their response is, well, I can't explain why God did that. You just have to have faith. Which is a cop-out way of saying, there's no answer for that. I just believe it because I want to and it makes me feel good. Which is the dumbest reason to believe in anything. So just don't say that. Oh, this is a...
Okay, so at this point, we're already 7 things in. And I'm getting the impression that this person has not engaged with serious scholarly Christians. Because all of these objections are youth group level evangelifish sort of questions that no serious Bible reader would ask. And so I really don't know what to say to that, but Atheist Voice, you have, at the time of this filming, 192,000 subscribers. Surely, I'm sure you've dialogued with some serious Christians. No serious Christian would ask these questions. So, I don't know, I'm just a bit confused. So, if you have videos where you respond to real assertions and real questions, please send it my way because I'd love to respond to that one. This one seems like the low-level fruit sort of thing, and I'm not really enjoying it.
How does one identify a serious scholarly Christian? Is it the clothing they wear? Is it the presence of a charismatic speech pattern? Because in my years of responding to countless apologists from every level of renown, that is the only way the best known differ from your average theist. They have a better presentation, not evidence or argument. These points are made from street preachers all the way up to the likes of William Lane Craig. They're simply packaged differently. The idea of high-hanging apologetics? Well, do notify me when you find some, because currently it's as mythical as the evidence you keep claiming you have. However, do note that this is a listicle video you are responding to, if you want to call it that. A listicle is a listed article. This is a listicle video. I don't know what you'd call that. What's the term? Vlog, blog, whatever, stuff like that. The focus of this video is on day-to-day interactions, and thus these arguments will be presented in their colloquial format rather than in syllogism. The fact that you want to pretend that you clicked on a listicle in seeking in-depth breakdowns of various points tells us more about you and less about the atheist voice. Yet, as noted, whilst these arguments aren't presented in syllogisms, they are still the same points as those used by well-known apologists. As mentioned before, the "where do your morals come from?" is simply a more colloquial form of William Lane Craig's favourite, the moral argument for God. High-hanging apologetics does not exist, since it is a field that fundamentally grows in bullshit, which thankfully stays on the ground. So, rather than just pretending like these aren't theism's best arguments, why don't you respond with some actual evidence? Why don't you show us what a serious scholarly Christian looks like and demonstrate beyond your raw assertion? Either way, I think we've done enough for today. I'll pick up from here in a follow-up video. Hi there. I'd just like to say a few things here at the end of the video. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has ever donated to the channel via Patreon, giving a special thanks to the following people: Trevor Matheson, Andrew Spreitzer, Sean Conley, Alexander Williams, Daniel Martinez, and of course, Matthew Kovac. Your support has ensured this channel its ability to grow over the years, and hopefully for the years to come. I'd also like to ask that you comment down below and like this video, as well as subscribe and follow Essence of Thought on Facebook. Please also consider following the Atheist Alliance International group on Facebook, an organisation dedicated to helping atheists around the globe. Last of all, I'd like to request that you treat the people responded to in this video with a reasonable degree of respect. Whilst it is understandable that there are justifiable limits to said respect when tackling certain heavy topics, and anger can be a very genuine emotion in tackling injustice, any comments utilising language which insults others on the basis of perceived gender, sexuality, ethnicity, or both ability, mental and physical, will be removed immediately, and the commenter may be blocked on the moderator's discretion. Let's keep this space one which upholds the humanist values. So with that noted, take care.